Hi, fellas. Good day to you all. Hopefully, you had a chance to get some rest over the break and take a look at that initial video that I wanted you to see. I think it was called AP Psych, remote plan, to give you an idea of how I want to maybe start this whole process. Okay, you know, um, there will be some opportunities to do some other things, all right, as we proceed. But for right now, if you remember, we're about halfway through this material. Okay, prior to spring break, we focused on infant and childhood development. All right, and then the break interrupted us, and now um, I want to start with teen issues and adolescent psychology. So I'm going to uh, kind of start from here. Okay, I still want you guys to have that packet, complete that packet, all right, and just try not to lose it um, till we get back together, okay? But for the time being, what I'd like to do is, present some 10 to 15 minute long videos with some prompts for you to really think about issues in your life, in your friends' lives, as it relates to um, developmental psychology, okay? So there will be some opportunity to provide your opinions, and there will be some opportunities that uh, will pop up where you need to um, know exact terminology, especially as I try to make you guys get you prepared for the AP test. I don't have any information on AP test dates and how that's gonna look as of right now. We're just gonna proceed in this way, and I'll try to be flexible, and I'll try to give you a variety of opportunities to learn, okay? So for this one, all right, as we get rolling, I want to talk about the time period between the ages of 10 and 20, which is the period all of you guys are in, okay, which we call adolescence. And today, the focus is mostly going to be on a physical type of development, all right? So one of the first noticeable changes when people enter into adolescence is a physical one. All right. We sometimes call it puberty. All right. We often call it puberty. The book is going to call it the mark of adolescence. When a person's body physically starts to change, that's the indicator that a child has now entered into the next stage of his or her development, adolescence. All right. So, what does that mean more specifically? More specifically, that would mean things like a growth spurt. Okay, a growth spurt, as you guys know, it's when a person rapidly grows. All right, their height changes, their weight changes, and as you can see here, uh, girls seem to hit their growth spurt a tad earlier than boys, but that's not true across the board. All right, you might know someone from your grade school that hit his growth spurt um, right away. All right, and towered over everyone else. And then there might be someone in the senior class now that's still waiting on that growth spurt to happen. Okay, that's possible. Growth spurts um, can happen at any time during this period. Typically, however, it's the age of 13 for boys, and the age of 11 for girls. What also happens physically, not just height and weight, the face can change. All right, many of you know that there is an increase in oil glands. And if there's an increase in oil glands around the face, what does that produce? That can produce breakouts, produce acne. Notice that you sweat differently once you're older. Okay, we don't have 4-year-olds with pit stains and sweat stains around their neck. We sweat differently. Our bodies are bigger. We've got more area that needs cooled. And then, of course, facial hair. Facial hair uh, hits us in different ways. Again, you've got that seventh grader with a full beard sometimes, and then you've got seniors in high school, all right, with stubble and still trying to grow facial hair. So it can happen at any point, affect some more than others. One of those explanations could be genetics, all right. And then another big mark of adolescence physically is the genitalia develop. All right, this is going to transition me into my next topic, but there is hormonal changes during the teenage years. All right, there's the boy's first ejaculation, which is called a sperm arc, and there's a girl's first menstrual cycle, which is called a menarche. Okay, indicating another mark of adolescence. All right, or hormonal change as they enter into these years. All right, and what that transitions us nicely into is a very big topic in adolescence, and that's sexual activity. I want to share with you guys a bunch of statistics. I find them pretty fascinating, and I'll give you guys some opportunities either in this activity, in this video, or down the road, as more of an assessment of the whole chapter on what's going on here, what might be causing this. Now, statistically, all right, from what I found from a variety of institutes, the CDC, the Kinsey Institute have shown that in the year 1900, 3% of teenagers reported having sexual intercourse. And then 2017 now, all right, 117 years later, it's now 43% of high school students have reported having that sexual experience, sexual intercourse, which might sound like a tremendous jump at first, and I agree with you that it is. I want to share this with you here. This is the CDC's statistics. All right, the first blue bar is the statistics from the 1980s. All right, female and male. All right, with male having a higher statistic just about every year, almost till a few years ago. Okay, but look at the trend. All right, interesting trend that's happening here. Astonishing at first, 60% of 15 to 19-year-olds reporting having sexual intercourse. 15 to 19, now that could include college age, but there is a decline, definitely. And the CDC reports that this is a statistically significant decline, that there is a noticeable, beyond just the varies of chance, that this is a trend that is occurring, okay? And so I'm going to share an article with you guys on what might be going on here, why this decline in sexual intercourse might be taking place. I'm going to share, again, an article from Wired that I kind of like, that has to deal with how maybe it's due to teenagers not being as social as they were 15 years ago, all right? The ways that we interact with each other are changing dramatically, as is the case with this right here. We're taking on a much more virtual community nowadays. You never know what's gonna pop up and cause us to go to this sort of virtual interaction, right? That teens are engaging more through social media, and the opportunities for sexual intercourse to take place are just simply less, which could lead to these types of statistics. Okay, all right. The average age for first time, it hovers around 16 and a half. That first time means first full sexual intercourse. In some cases, all right, when you break it down by race, it is different. All right, you look at Asian Americans are closer to the age of 18 for that first time, with African American and Caucasians being closer to the ages of 16. All right, so there could be an explanation there in terms of race, but there's also other explanations, and this is something I want to share with you guys. I really like this. This was a survey that was done by the Kinsey Institute on male and female's viewpoints on that quote-unquote first time. All right, so these were people who had that first experience as a teenager. The question that was posed to them was that first experience a good experience? And 65% of high school boys said yes, that the first time was a good experience. 65%. All right, so it wasn't 100% of high school boys saying that it was a good first experience. Do you think it was higher or lower for girls? All right. Hopefully you guessed correctly that it was lower for girls. The first time for girls often can be a painful experience physically, and so based on like hearsay and rumor and what the media tells you, that first experience isn't often or always as good as initially thought. Okay? An even more interesting question was, do you wish you would have waited? And it says here that 72% of high school girls said, yeah, I wish I would have waited. Now, what waited for, we don't know exactly. Remember, it's just a survey. 72% of high school girls wish they would have waited. Do you think it was higher or lower for boys? Okay. The answer is lower. It was lower for boys. But look, 55% of boys said, yeah, I probably should have waited. So even though um, it was less than girls, over half of all boys say, yeah, probably should have waited, which begs the question, why? All right, and I want you guys to answer this and tell me what you think, and then I'll provide my thoughts on it also. One of my favorite responses, all right, came a few years ago from a student in class, and he said to get it over with. I found that really interesting and brave on his part to say it, but I could also see the truth in that with the tremendous amount of peer pressure um, to simply have intercourse to take the pressure off of you. All right, to say that you've done it, your friends leave you alone if they are truly your friends, right? Leave you alone. You can say that you've done it. What's the you know, the sad part of that. The sad part of that is it was probably not a special moment. It wasn't perhaps a person you cared about deeply, and now that opens up, you know, doorways for risky behaviors, risky sexual encounters. Okay, and when a person goes into a sexual encounter uh, in a risky way, it brings me to our final topic that for this, and that's pregnancy.